Hello and welcome to Unacademy. I welcome you all to the UCAN session on art and culture. So we'll be covering the past month's current affairs related to art and culture, which basically is between 12th of November till today. We had a very disturbing news coming from America about a stalwart and a legend, and we'll cover that also with regards to Zakir Hussain. But before I begin, firstly, good evening to all of you and welcome to this session. In the next 2 hours, we will systematically cover 7 topics related to art and culture, which is quite relevant for the examination, as UPSC has made art and culture very dynamic nowadays. Now, one thing which I want to point out first is that our 9+9 offer, which is flat 50% offer, is still live. And the Ignite batch just started today. A very important aspect which is related to this is you have to use the code IAS English. And the reason for that is if you will use the code IAS English whilst taking 9+9, 12+12 or 18+18, which is you buy for 9 months and you get 9 months free along with a 50% discount. If you use the code IAS English, the backend team will be able to identify that you are a student of Unacademy English, and therefore you will also get mentorship sessions before you join the live batch itself from all of us, be it me, be it Chetan sir or Sham sir or Hima ma'am or Mukesh sir, and therefore we have mentorship sessions aligned for you. The only prerequisite to that is use IAS English code. Therefore, they will be able to appropriate and basically tag you to our program and to the Ignite batch of English Unacademy IAS. And therefore, this is a very important announcement for you. This offer ends tomorrow. So therefore, there is no right and wrong time. Anything related to the link, how to get this, is given in the description box and you should use it. Thereafter, the topics which we are going to cover are quite interesting. One very important temple which has got recognition from the UNESCO and the Asia Pacific Heritage Conservation Award itself. Thereafter, West Bengal has been chosen by UNESCO as a top destination for heritage tourism. Then we'll talk about modern architecture, a very interesting development happening in Patna related to geography and also environment. Thereafter, a certain what we call as scheme which has been brought in by the Ministry of Tourism. Then the Kumbh Mela, for which we are all bracing in January itself, a major event in UP, and along with that, the intangible heritage of India, which is quite interesting and a very interesting administrative development related to it. Then we have an update in the GI tags, and last but not the least, it takes a lot of, I can say, we are in sorrow and still mourning for Ustad Zakir Hussain's demise, untimely demise, which happened in San Francisco just last night. So we'll talk about his legacy, what he was known for, and in the next 2 hours, we'll cover all of these topics systematically. If you want the PDF, you just have to go and join my Telegram channel. I will push the PDF into the Telegram channel once this session is over. So I think we can start. If everybody is ready, can we start? I want your consent here. We'll keep it a two-way interaction wherein I want your participation also. Yes? Good evening. Good evening. Yes, great. Danish. Okay. So the first topic, as always, I will give you the basic, what we call as larger picture. Then we'll go into the nitty-gritty, smaller details. And thereafter, in the end, I will summarize. I will summarize after 3 topics. I will summarize after the 7th topic is done. We'll learn, and I have a lot of prelims questions for you, for which I will also push a poll for which you can interact. And therefore, we'll have a certain type of understanding where we can also learn and revise in the same session. So, the temple in news is the Abhasaheshwara temple. The Abhasaheshwara temple has recently got a recognition from the UNESCO Asia Pacific Heritage Conservation Body, and there are multiple awards under it. You have 5 different awards. It has got the award of distinction. Now, the Asia Pacific Award for Cultural Heritage Conservation is a very interesting body which in a way only recognizes either private or PPP, which is public-private based partnerships for heritage conservation. We'll talk about the body itself, but first let's basically understand the history of this temple. So we'll talk about the body after I have established what the temple is, why is it so important, and what is its history. So when we talk about the Abath Saheshwara temple in Tamil Nadu, this temple history goes back to 1300 years and is related to the Imperial Cholas. Imperial Cholas. It is believed that Vikrama Chola and Kolotunga Chola actually were the ones who constructed this temple. A very grand temple, but in ruins because of no conservation, or you can say attention. And what a very interesting aspect of this temple was, which allows me to enter into the architecture of it, is that it had 5 parakrams. Now, out of these 5 parakrams, 2 have been restored by the temple itself with the help of private donations. That is where the UNESCO comes in and it tries to identify, it tries to reward the temple for doing conservation activity vis-a-vis where the government was not involved. And that is one of the peculiarities of this award, that it rewards private and public-private, not governmental bodies, for doing any form of what we call as conservation activity. Therefore, this temple itself has been raising a lot of funds, and that is where it got the award of distinction for 2023-2024. Now, when we talk about this temple, one of the only, you can say, structures which is intact is the Gopuram. And thereafter, the parakrams which are attached to this Gopuram were basically destroyed or went into ruins because of, you can say, neglect in that regard. And therefore, related to Vikrama Chola and Kolotunga Chola, this is one of the grandest temples which even follows a certain, you can say, Brihadeshwara and Gangaikonda Cholapuram model, wherein it is a Shiva temple which represents Shiva in a lingam. But this is important. What is a parakrama or parakram? This is a very interesting aspect. So I will detour into the architecture, specifically remind you of Dravidian architecture, and then we can talk about parakrams. Now, parakram is a word you must have seen somewhere with regards to Vijayanagara architecture, and within Vijayanagara architecture, the concept of Nayak architecture. But just to refresh your memory, let's try to understand what is the basic concept of a Dravida temple. So we know that a Dravida temple has a very elaborate gateway, which is called a Gopuram. And what is attached to it is a big boundary wall. Within this boundary wall, you have fierce imagery of Dwarpals, unlike the Nagara style temple itself. And you have a water tank, because water was a scarce resource in the southern Indian sector, and therefore something which was a standard feature was the water tank. Over and above that, you do not have a raised platform, but rather you have the Garbhagriha, which has a mandapa attached to it. Along with the mandapa, you also have the Ardha Mandap, and the Ardha Mandap is the initial part of the mandap itself. And here we have something called the Vimana. Vimana is the Shikhar of South India, and the topmost point, which was called Amlak and Kalash in North India, is called the concept of Shikhar, which is the top. So we have Mandapa, we have the Ardha Mandap, and we have the Gopuram, we have the water tank, and over and above that, we have the boundary wall. Now, just to refresh your memory, I have discussed this in the past session also. They have what is called as Panchayatan design, but without clusterization, wherein the Vimanas are not together. Rather, they are kept at a certain distance. And the smallest Vimana is mostly where the god is, because it was the oldest part. So the imagery, Panchayatan is common to both north and south, but Panchayatan without clusterization is there. And there is the concept that the biggest Shikhar in north has the god. Here, the smallest Vimana has the god, the main god in that regard. But this is called the early Dravida. It's called pure Dravida style of temple. Now, if you notice this design, you will realize that there is no mention of something called a parakram. This, or the word basically comes from the parikrama concept. So the parakramas, what are they? See, during the Chola period, then taken forward by the Nayaks, and will later become a feature of the Vijayanagara Empire also. Vijayanagara. The Nayaks in Meenakshi temple actually do justice to this concept, but the Cholas were the first to introduce it, which is very big, and I'll try to show it in a different color. These are basically very big halls or pillared halls which go around the temple, so that you actually can do what we call as parikrama of the temple itself, and there will always be one pillared hall towards the main mandapa itself. And basically, if I look at this structure, it will have pillars on the side, and it will be a trebuchet structure, and I have images for this. So, for example, this is the Brihadeshwara temple. Now, when you look at the Brihadeshwara temple, one of the grandest of temples of the Cholas, a monumental Vimana plus a very ornated shikhar in that regard. As much as you have vertical elaboration, you have horizontal elaboration also. This is the mandap, this is the Ardha mandap. So, this is standard. But what you can see here, this is called a parakram. You can see it all around the temple itself. If you go into the Meenakshi temple, you'll find something like this. This is called the 1000-pillared hall of the Meenakshi temple. This is basically a parakram. You go around the main Garbhagriha and then enter into the second round of parakrams, and thereafter into the mandap itself. This is one of the most interesting features which was developed by the Cholas. Did not use it too much, but the Nayaks actually started to appropriate properly, and thereafter it will become a standard feature of Vijayanagara and Nayak school of. The best example being Meenakshi temple. Just to give you one more perspective of how a Dravida style temple looks from the top. This is Brihadeshwara temple, aerial view, top down. If you look at it, see, this is the main. This is either Gangai Konda Cholapuram. If you look at the main temple itself, you have the Vimana, you have the Shikhar. But you can see that there's a pathway which has been made like this. This pathway is basically the parakram. You can thereafter enter into the main temple like this. This concept is now in use because what they've restored in this temple is out of the 5 parakrams which were there. They have now restored 2 of them. Meaning that 2 walls have been restored, 3 more walls are left. This is where basically static and current affairs comes through. So we have seen previously a question on the concept of Kalyan Mandap being asked in the examination. Today itself I was discussing it in class. We can also get this concept of what does a parakram mean. And therein I have also given you the definitional aspect that it is the outer part of a Hindu temple sanctum. It is basically an open pillared hall which goes towards the inner hall itself, and thereafter it is the based on the concept of parikrama. Basically, you will have the parakram on the sides, then in the middle you will have the concept of the Garbhagriha. So I hope, other than just knowing the basic contours of Dravida style, you should also know what are the evolutions which happened in Chola, Nayak and Vijayanagara, and parakrams being a very important concept. And therein this is the what we call as acceptance by the body that yes, you have been able to conserve a very important part of this temple, but through private and public partnership. So do we understand the architectural understanding here? Because if we understand the architecture, then I can go into the second aspect, which is what is the concept of the body, which is UNESCO Asia Pacific Award for Cultural Heritage Conservation. Are we clear about the first part, which is what is parakrams, what is the concept of Dravida style of temple, and how is it placed? Yes? Danny says, so Palak says yes, yes, great. So we are clear with regards to the first part, So the first part of this is clear. Now, let's talk about the UNESCO award itself and what are the peculiarities related to it. Now, since 2000, the UNESCO created an Asia Pacific Award for Cultural Heritage Conservation. Now, it's not a random award because it has 2 very interesting peculiarities. First, it recognizes achievement of the private sector and the public-private initiatives in successfully restoring and conserving structures. This is a very important point. There is no mention of directly public, meaning if a government will do it, it will not get this award. If a temple itself is doing it, if, for example, when the Golconda fort was under ruins, the Aga Khan Trust did it, then again it was a private player with a little bit of money from the government, then it becomes a public-private. If it is under PPP, then it will be recognized. If it is under full private, then again it will be recognized. But if it is pure governmental restoration, it will never get this award. Therefore, since 2000, India, 2 years back, the Golconda Fort and the Baulis which were made inside it got this award. It got the award of merit. This one has got the award of distinction. There are 5 awards under it: excellence, distinction, merit, honorable mention, and design. You don't need to know the differentiation between them because that is not important. But merit has been given to Golconda Fort and the Domakonda Fort, and distinction has now been given to the temple itself. So this is the first thing we should know. Then since 2020, the same award has also branched out, which is now there is a specific, you can say, body within this award, what we call as category itself, for sustainable development. And this is a very interesting concept wherein now UNESCO awards any form of cultural heritage conservation which is done in a sustainable way. And UNESCO Bangkok has started to also develop models by looking at other conservation methods to teach the youth how to conserve, but with a certain tinge to sustainability. Meaning, when they actually recreate or restore or conserve that body, they're also doing it in the form of sustainable development. Wherein, for example, if there's a need for electricity, it is coming from renewable energy. And if it is about restoration of Baulis and water resources, there's a lot of emphasis on making it sustainably developed, and the material which is also used is sustainable. So therefore, there were 2 basic components to this article. First was the restoration, which gave us an opportunity to understand the concept of conservation. It gave us an understanding of what are Parakarams. It gave us an understanding of Dravida style temple. It also gave us an understanding of the evolution from Chola. Please do understand, this is not imperial Chola. No reference to Sangam Chola. Sangam Cholas are not known to create a lot of temples. That is the wrong timeline itself. That is basically what we call as Maurya, post-Maurya. Post-Maurya is not the period of temple construction. So never get confused about that. So Chola to Nayak to the period of Vijayanagara, how this became a very important feature. If they ask you in the examination, Parakrams are a distinctive feature of which form of architecture, then it will be Nayak school. Because whatever buildings they made sure that they added the concept of Parakrams. Second aspect was the award itself. The award is the distinction award. The UNESCO body since 2000 has been in a way developing this concept further. What is the peculiarity here? That it is private plus public-private, but not public itself, and therefore you have to pay attention to any statement-based question which comes with regards to this peculiarity. An offshoot is about sustainable development, and one more aspect related to it is training the youth in conserving our heritage with regards to sustainable development also. So do we understand the 2 concepts? If we do, then we'll do a question on this. We'll see if you're able to apply this concept. I made you learn the basic aspects here, and I hope that this revision is good enough to make you remember it also. So we have 2 aspects. If I get a yes from everyone, I'll give you the question also. Yes? Okay. Sustainable, Danish, means that, princess, see, there are 2 things. Sustainable development here means that it is a green building, that the material which is used is not harming the environment, and over and above that, the concept of any material, but any energy which is used in actually conserving it, in turn, is based on sustainable energy, renewable energy. Very good, Azhar. Now, princess, I don't know where you are with regards to level of architecture, but as I said, there is an award called the UNESCO Asia Pacific Cultural Heritage Award for Conservation. It was given to a temple in Thanjavur district, and therefore this is not a revision session. It is based on the understanding of static. This is why static is important for current affairs. I'm trying to basically tell you what is Dravida style of temple architecture, wherein we understood that there are certain components. Within that component, which evolved from Chola to Nayak to Vijayanagara, was the concept of these halls, which are called parakarams. And these parakarams became a standard feature of the Nayak school of architecture. Thereafter, the reason why this has got an award is because there were 5 parakarams which were there, and they have now been 2 have been restored. And therefore, the concept is based on how you can actually develop, a certain private based, where you are actually allowing private individuals to fund conservation. That is what this organization actually tries to recognize. I've again repeated it in much simpler words. Yeah, if that is clear, princess, just have to understand that there is a UNESCO body which basically tries to give you the understanding or recognition that you have done good work, Now, that good work should be done by the private or public sector with regards to conservation, and therein lies the recognition from this award. So I'll now push the question to everyone. Okay. Consider the following statements. UNESCO Asia Pacific Award for Cultural Heritage Conservation recognizes the efforts of the government in heritage conservation and restoration. Parakrams are the mandapa under which the deities are married ceremonially. There would be a poll with 4 options coming to you. Please interact with it. Tell me what is the right answer. Okay. Don't have to write it, Kanishk. Bhanu, you don't have to write it. You can just interact with the poll. Okay. B, D. We have A and D basically modulating 61% at D. I'll give it 1 more minute so that everybody can interact with the poll, which should be in front of you, and thereafter we will. Palak is giving you the answer also. She's trying to help you. Okay. Everybody has to interact. Even if you don't know it, try to check how good is your instinct. Everybody should do it. Okay. So we'll end the poll now, and 53% of you were totally correct. See, the first statement, why is it wrong? Why is the first statement wrong? Can anybody tell me why? What is the issue? Very good, Antara. The reason here, it says governments. It should be either private or should be private plus public. It cannot be governmental. So this becomes incorrect. And this is actually definition of what is called as Kalyana Mandap. Parakrams are rather the outer part of a temple or the corridors of the temple. This is actually the definition of a Kalyan Mandap. So here, neither of these statements are correct. Both are incorrect. So first is it has to be private and public, and second is this. So I hope that this question in a way, what we call as crystallizes your understanding. This is a very realistic question which can come from this topic. Okay. Can I move to the next topic, everyone? First is done. The award and the temple. Great. Perfect. Now we come to another UNESCO declaration, and this UNESCO declaration is with regards to West Bengal, and the Chief Minister of West Bengal was extremely happy to announce that West Bengal has been chosen as the top heritage tourism destination. Now, what does this mean? See, the UNESCO is not saying it is for tourism. It is saying it for tourism destination with regards to heritage. Now, what the UNESCO said was that if you look at the tangible, which is World Heritage Sites, plus intangible heritage, which is skill, and for example, Durga Puja being one of the most interesting skill, technique or concept, plus the concept of what we call as regional folk art and literature plus music. UNESCO has argued that if we talk about all of these aspects, West Bengal is one of the top heritage tourism destination. Heritage basically means the past, culture. Heritage is anything related to your culture or history. So heritage basically means the monuments which you have, the intangible heritages which you have, the concept of regional folk art which you have. And this is where it's very interesting that there are certain things which the government has pointed out that why did they get it. And over and above that, we now get a chance to also understand 4 to 5 important buildings, monuments and intangible heritages related to West Bengal. So West Bengal government in that regard was extremely elated. The Chief Minister itself said that for religious, heritage and even tea tourism because of Darjeeling, in a way West Bengal deserves this what we call as tag of heritage tourism. But for us, we have to prove it also. How is that West Bengal should be given this extraordinary recognition vis-a-vis having such a diverse country with so much heritage in every sector. Therein, she points out to 5 to 6 very interesting developments which have come from West Bengal. The first, she talks about the Dakshineshwar temple and the Kalighat temple. Then she talks about how there has been a, you can say in North Bengal, close to 2,500 homestays have developed, which is record, you can say development, with 65% of those located in North Bengal. Homestays mean that people are now hosting what we call as tourists in their homes. Further, she talked about an under construction Jagannath temple at Digha, and she also mentioned what is called as the Ganga Sagar Mela. Now, this in turn creates for a UPSC aspirant a set of concepts which he or she should know, because once a temple goes into the news, it becomes relevant for the examination. Now, what we'll do is we'll try to understand each of these components in that regard in detail so that we are not caught off guard in the examination. Now, let's first talk about the Dakshineshwari temple or the Dakshineshwar temple. Now, if you look at this temple and if you've done art and culture with me or you have basic understanding of art and culture, one thing which automatically should come to your mind is this. This is called the sloping roof of Bengal. Very good, Rishi, of Bengal. This is a very, you can say, yes, very good. The Pala period and thereafter, we see a very distinctive form of roof which started to develop in Bengal, and this is called the sloping roof of Bengal. And the whole temple actually has a very interesting history also. So there was a zamindar, her name was Rani Rashmoni. Rani Rashmoni was the zamindar of this area, and she constructed this temple in 1855 on the land which she had taken from the British. Now, when she made this temple, she made it with this iconic set of what we call as shikhars, if you want to call them. This is called the Navratna style or the 9 spires style of temple construction. Now, what this means is, if you count these, you can say mini shikhars, which are called spires here, the total 9 here, and she integrated a very, you can say, British type of architecture into the Bengali architecture at that given point of time. That is where you will see that the mandap, which is here, has a very distinct type of, you can say, British type imposing, you can say, architecture, but the arches and the lotuses gives you a little bit of the Mughal tinge also. So in a way, there is this Bengali, Mughal, British, which is called the Neo-Gothic or the Victorian style of architecture, all coming together to create this very unique building, which is on the eastern bank of the Hooghly River in Kolkata. This is the first temple she identified. One of the most iconic ones. You can see it from at least 5 to 6 kilometers away. And that way, it has a very unique blend of what we call as architecture. So what would be expected from you is that you should know what is this Navratna design or the 9 spire style of what we call as temple construction on the eastern bank of the Hooghly River. The second thing is, there is one more personality. Yes, this does not have the foliated Basu, Bhavesh rather, it does not have the foliated curve. It has what is called an blend of 2 arches. This is called a British arch, pure semicircle, but it then has certain embellishments on it. And this embellishment rather is a Mughal Bengal, you can say, convergence. If you actually see it very closely, it brings in these 2 styles together. One personality of the social reform movement is also associated with this temple. Ramakrishna Paramhans actually was one of the persons who actually was associated with this temple and the Zamindar. He actually practiced out of this temple, and that is where it brings in the social reform movement also in that sense. So this is a blend. There is the pointy arch. This is called the Gothic arch of the British. But in the later period, when the Victorian style started to, in a way, evolve, you start to get these very, you can say, plain but semi-circular, what we call as arches. This is a very standard development which happens after 1807. 1855 is the period when the Indo-Gothic is going out, Indo-Saracenic is going out, and the Neo-Roman is coming through, which is the British also changing their understanding. So that way is a very interesting building. Again, trying to show you something so that there's a visual memory for it. Further, then we go to the Kali Ghat temple. Both are related to goddess Kali, but the Kali Ghat temple is considered as a Shakti Peeth that way, believed to have been constructed during the 15th century. But again, I don't have to remind you and point out that this is what is the iconic sloping roof. As you can see here, the sloping roof of Bengal, a very standard feature which we see here, the sloping roof like this. And this is standard to this whole geography itself, the slope itself, very beautiful slope. But this temple, 15th century, first construction around the goddess, and it is believed that it was properly constructed. The structure which you see here right now was constructed in 1809, again the colonial period, by a person called Sarvana Roy Chaudhary. It is the family of Sarvana Roy Chaudhary, which actually restored it to what it is today. And in that regard, one of the most holiest of sites again in Kolkata. Very interesting. Again, what the CM pointed out was because of the heritage, because of the footfall into the Kali Ghat temple and the Dakshineshwari temple, it makes it very, very interesting that we have got the recognition for this. Further, she also refers to a very interesting, what we call as Mela. It is called the Ganga Sagar Mela. Now, this Mela needs our attention because it is considered to be the second to the Kumbh Mela. Now, basically, the Ganga Sagar Mela happens, and I'll take one slide, open slide. The Ganga Sagar Mela, please note this because it is very interesting. Ganga Sagar Mela, important for the examination also, happens at the Sagar Island, also called the Sagar Dweep, wherein once the Ganga enters into the Bay of Bengal, then it forms a whole, you can set of small islands at the end, and out of them, one of them is called the Sagar Island, one of the biggest also, Sagar Dweep. And on the Sagar Dweep, in Makar, or rather when there is Makar Sankranti, people take the holy dip, and it is considered to be as holy as the Kumbh Mela if done on the Makar Sankranti occasion. And one again interesting personality which you do in the 6 schools of philosophy, Kapila Muni, related to the Sankhya school of philosophy, actually is related to because there's an ashram of Kapil Muni on the Ganga Sagar Island. So that ways it has a lot of mythology related to it. It also has this interesting angle where the 6 schools of philosophy, Kapil Muni ashram is actually established in the Ganga Sagar island or the Sagar Dweep itself. That ways it becomes an interesting, you can say, set of things which she pointed out. The Jagannath temple still is in construction. We'll talk about it once it is constructed. But the Ganga Sagar Mela, the Dakshineshwar temple and the Kalighat temple, 3 things which she actually specifically pointed out. Other than that, there is a whole set of UNESCO tangible heritages which also come from West Bengal. You have the Sundarbans National Park, and a site which was under the natural, you can say, category of UNESCO World Heritage Site. You also have the Darjeeling Himalayan Railway system, much like the Kalka Shimla Darjeeling Himalayan Railway, the toy train system there, 78 kilometers, very interesting. We're going to the tea plantations, also something which got recognition by early 2000s. Then you have the Bishnupur temple. It's a terracotta temple made by a small dynasty called the Malas. Very interesting, again recognized by UNESCO. Then we have the Nerora Valley National Park, again recognized under UNESCO. And last but not the least, this was the latest edition in 2023, which was Shantiniketan. Shantiniketan was in the news, and now they have 5 major UNESCO tangible heritages. Now this tag may be extended to other states also. It's not that it will remain with West Bengal. But as of right now, West Bengal tourism has got a shot in the arm. It has got a boost because it has got UNESCO, you can say, recognition for its heritage in that regard. That makes this concept quite interesting, and it gives us a set of topics which we have to discuss. If we understand this, I would want to ask a question on this topic, if we are sorted with regards to this. Yes? Dakshineshwari temple, Navratan style, spices, what they call the 9 spires style itself, and the Ganga Sagar Mela. Yes? Danny says yes. Okay. Perfect. So here's the question for this topic. The Dakshineshwar temple is located on the Brahmaputra river and is known for its iconic Navratan or 9 spires style. The Ganga Sagar Mela is held every year on Makar Sankranti on the banks of the Hooghly in Kolkata. Which of the statements are correct? 2 random concepts which can be pushed into the examination because of something which was in the news. Which of the above statements are correct? I am again encouraging everybody to interact in this poll so that you should understand, are you able to absorb the concept itself? Yes? GI tag. I have a question regarding GI tags. Okay, sir, Rajma, GI tag, but same crop is produced in other areas. No, Azhar, what is going to happen? We will discuss GI tags. The concept is that the specific Rajma which comes out of the Bhadeshwar, what we call as Bhadeshwai area, has a specific type of, you can say, characteristic. If you are producing it in that sector, all will get GI. But not every Rajma is going to be called a GI tagged Rajma. It is specific to a geography. It is specific to this concept. Okay. I'm again giving you 1 more minute. I want everybody to interact. You should not be a silent observer. check if you picked up the basic facts related to this topic so that you can also understand it. Come on. Okay, very interesting set of votes which are coming through. Danish is saying B, 2 only. Uma is saying D. Okay. B, D. I give it 1 more minute. Come on, everybody. JR says D. Deepika says B, D. Neha says B. B, 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 B. T, D. Okay. So we'll end the poll here. And you are not reading closely. You are not reading closely. 42% here. D, 31%. Read the facts closely. Dakshineshwar temple is located on Brahmaputra river. Incorrect. This part of the statement is correct. Iconic Navratan or 9 spires style. This is fine. But this is incorrect. It is on the Hooghly river eastern bank. Now it says Gangar Sagar Mela is held on a Makar Sankranti on the banks of Hooghly. No. It is done on the Sagar Dweep. The Sagar Dweep, if you have to attribute a certain river to it, it would be the Ganga and Bay of Bengal confluence. It is not based on the banks of a river. It is rather the Bay of Bengal and the Ganga where they meet together. That is where it happens. Does not happen in Kolkata. That is the next thing which is incorrect. It is on the Sagar Dweep or the Sagar Island as based on the Bay of Bengal. So the answer here is D, not B. So in the exam, these type of questions may seem to be very easy, but are tricky if you don't pay attention to the small details. Confluence meaning once Ganesh, the Ganga, enters into the Bay of Bengal, that is where the Sagar Dweep is actually formed. So read closely. Very, very important concept. Read closely. 2 UNESCO concepts I have discussed with you. One an award, the other one an recognition. One to a temple in Tamil Nadu, the second one to a state West Bengal, and both are based on UNESCO's understanding to recognize certain concepts related to how we have a unique history in that regard. So I hope we are all sorted with regards to these 2 topics. If I have your consent, I would like to move to the second. Once again, repeat second option. See, Ganga Sagar Mela happens Makar Sankranti for sure. But it does not happen on the banks of Hooghly and neither happens in Kolkata. It happens in the what we call as the Bay of Bengal Ganga meeting point. It is called the Sagar Dweep and it is not in Kolkata. It is a separate district altogether called the Sagar district. So it comes under the larger area of 24 Parganas. So has nothing to do with Kolkata or the Hooghly in that sense. So I hope that you will be able to understand this point. Okay. Let's move to the third topic, which is related to the very interesting developments which are happening in Patna. Now, Patna basically is a city which is based on a very important legendary city, if you want to call it, which is called Patliputra. Now, Patliputra was a very important center of power from the Mauryan till the Gupta period. Meaning from 324-321 BCE to close to 600 CE, which is close to 900 years, there was the seat of power of the Indian subcontinent in Patliputra. And Patliputra, previously Rajgir, which was the area of the Magad dynasty, this whole sector is quite important because we have a very rich history of the what we call as Indian subcontinent linked to Patliputra in and around Patna. Now the problem is that Patna has developed into a very urbanized settlement, has a lot of urbanization also, and therefore the ASI from time to time, which is the Archaeological Survey of India, tries to look for, you can say, sites which may be conserved or in a way may give us some insight into the Mauryas or the what we call as the Kushanas or the Shungas, or thereafter what we call as the Guptas. So this is the problem of what we call as urbanization in cities which are quite important archaeologically. And in the 1912 to 1915 period, during the colonial period itself, the ASI had identified a very interesting site at Patna, which was a certain pavilion which has 80 pillars. 80 pillars. So it is basically a pavilion which has 80 pillars, a trebuchet structure. For students who do not know what trebuchet means, you have accurate and trebuchet structures. Accurate structures are which have arch and dome, and trebuchet is when you have something where you are using pillars to hold onto a certain, you can say, roof. Now, it is believed by the ASI that the third Buddhist council under Ashoka actually happened in this 80-pillared assembly hall. There's no real confirmation for it archaeologically, but the texts and the literary references give us an understanding that yes, maybe this is the same hall in which the Buddhist council happened, which in turn led to the writing of the Abhidhamma Pitaka. Now, there's a lot to unpack here. Which is the Buddhist council concept and what is Mauryan architecture. Now, when we talk about Mauryan architecture took two types of forms. One is called non-religious. The other one is called religious. Under that, you had palaces and you had assembly halls and pavilions. And under religious, because Dhamma was also pushed by the concept of the pillars, you had pillars, you had caves, and you had what are called as early stupas. Now, unfortunately, when we talk about Mauryan architecture, palaces and assembly halls have not survived. Though they had sandstone pillars, most of these structures were made out of wood. And this is true for this pavilion also, that the roof and the structure around these 80 pillars was wood. And wood is not very good for what we call today as conservation or preservation. Over a period of time, it will not survive more than 10, 15, maximum 100 years if you actually are putting in a lot of effort to conserve that wood in that regard. And that was not something the Mauryans or the post-Mauryans did, specifically the Shungas did not do it. And therefore, most of the palaces, assembly halls, which were used for administrative purposes, were actually lost. This is where this development becomes interesting, because now we have an 80-pillared hall, which adds to the concept of palaces, adds to the concept of what we call today as assembly halls. The other aspect here is this assembly hall has a specific purpose also, which is the Buddhist council. Now, just to give you little bit of context there, this sandstone pillar based, you can say, structure, which was first identified in 1912-15, now has become of interest. I'll tell you why. But what is the Buddhist council concept? You had 4 Buddhist councils, and after the death of Buddha, there was a need to systematize and institutionalize Buddhism as a religion. And therefore, at the first Buddhist council, you have the Vinay and the Sutta Pitaka which were written. The Tipitakas, the 2 books were written. And that was for the rule book, which is Vinay. Sutta was what Buddha had said. However, over a period of time, there was a lot of, you can say, differences which started to develop between the, what we call as the council, the Sangha itself, which in turn led to the second Buddhist council, which is basically the split, the first split in Buddhism, which in turn leads to the Theravada form of Buddhism and the Mahasangika. Mahasangika becomes the majority. Theravada says Vinay Pitaka need not change, and Mahasangika says Vinay Pitaka, the rules have to be diluted because everybody cannot follow it. The first one was under Ajatshatru, the second one was under Kalasoka, the rulers. Now, once the Mahasangika won this battle against Theravada, the Mahasangika met under one of the greatest upasaks of the Buddhist order, which is Ashoka, which is the third Buddhist council. Third Buddhist council created a text called the Abhidhamma Pitak, which is the third of the Tipitak, which gives you the philosophy of Buddhism, which is that what did Buddha wanted to say through the Sutta Pitak. That is where these three books together are called canonical texts, which is like the Bible and the Quran of Buddhism. It is the rule book of Buddhism. Thereafter, there will be a division further under Kanishka in the fourth Buddhist council around 100, 200, rather around 40 to 50 CE. There will be, exact date is 127, but you will find multiple dates. In the fourth Buddhist council, what will happen is that Buddhism will split into Hinayana and Mahayana. The difference was Hinayana said Buddha is a good teacher. Mahayana said Buddha is God itself. And that is the whole story of the four Buddhist councils. Now, this is where the third Buddhist council connection comes through. I hope that you have a little bit of understanding of the councils, but I'm still giving you all static understanding so that you understand, yes, the concept of idol worship of Buddha, the concept of bodhisattvas, all specific to Mahayanic Buddhism, Hinayanic Buddhism, now in a way worshipping Buddha as through his symbols. So this is the first aspect which you should know, that this is not no ordinary pillared hall. Now, 1912 and 1915, they identified it. But then why did they not excavate it properly? The second round of excavation happened after independence because the British were not interested in doing too much excavation here. So in 1961-65, there was a second round of excavation which happened, but there was a major issue. The issue was that because this pillared hall was at a certain, you can say, level in the subsoil, it started to get flooded because of the water table of Patna. And in order to conserve this site, ASI had to push in a lot of soil into this site so that it does not submerge. This is a very interesting aspect, that ASI wanted to conserve it, wanted to, in a way, show it to the world that we have the third Buddhist council pillared hall also found, but they were not able to do it because of ecological factors. Now the question is, now what has changed now? Because of over exploitation of water resources in and around Patna, the water table of Patna has gone down. And now what has happened is, this site has automatically revealed itself and has refreshed the memory of the ASI, and we are now able to see the post holes. Post holes means the holes which were made to put the pillar inside. And this is where you get to know how ecology, how climate change impacts conservation also. So the ASI is now uncovering this site due to the receding water table. 6 to 7 pillars have already been studied, but the whole 80 pillar section will most probably be excavated and be opened for people to understand and look at this holy site. It will turn out to be a very holy site because the Abhidhamma Pitak was written here. That is where this development is very interesting. So there are again 4 to 5 components to this topic, which is, first component tells you about this pillared hall, what is its importance related to the Buddhist councils, and therefore what is its first way of excavation. Second component is how archaeology actually works, and therefore the receding and the increasing water table of Patna did not allow for the excavation of this site. And the third is why Patliputra generally is an important city because of being a seat of power for close to 900 years during the ancient Indian period. If we understand these 3 points, then I will ask you a question on this topic, but I hope that it is making sense. I can also teach you Mauryan pillar architecture if you want me to, because here we have pillars as the most important expression of it. This component, we don't really have any excavations happening because of them really not surviving. This is one of the rarest of rarest occasions that we found something like this. Pillar, cave and early stupas are again expressions, religious expressions in that regard. If you are sorted with regards to this topic, and if you are all clear with regards to pillars, Mauryan pillars, Please, yeah, okay, perfect. So, because I'm in the Mauryan concept itself, I'll use this occasion to basically tell you what Mauryan pillars are also. Now, when we talk about Mauryan pillars, the first thing is you have to understand what is called the Achaemenian dynasty. Achaemenian dynasty or the Achaemenian empire existed from Persia, which is Iran, in all directions till the Indus and till Macedonia, which is Greece, and they were the first to create pillars. And therefore, Ashoka's concept of Mauryan pillars was not specific to Ashoka. It was a borrowed concept from the Achaemenian empire. Now, what the Achaemenian empire used to do was, they used to make pillars, but their pillars had a very specific peculiarity, which is they were made in pieces. It was non-monolithic, which is not one piece. And further, what we see is they were part of a larger temple complex, meaning if there's a big temple complex like this and there is space in between, they used to create pillars so as to fill the space. So therefore, it was just for aesthetic sense. It was just a filler. It did not have really any purpose. It had capital figures on it which used to represent the Persian gripping and other forms of embellishments. Sometimes they also had the what we call as bell motif at the base itself, a certain type of embellishment decoration which used to happen in the base. However, Mauryan pillars are quite different to this. But the idea is that it is based on the concept of what we call as non-monolithic. It is a filler and has no purpose. It is just an artistic expression, a certain aesthetic expression within a larger complex. Now, when Ashoka picked up this concept, he made a lot of differences or new changes into this concept. So it was a borrowed concept, but Ashokan pillars had a different concept altogether. And the concept was that they were pure monolithic structures. Monolithic means it was made out of one Chunar sandstone. Karan, this is what means monolithic. Meaning one rock was then chiseled to make a pillar, and it was one rock, no pieces. That is called a monolithic rock structure made out of one piece. And unlike three pieces attached together with glue, this was monolithic. First. Second, it had a purpose, meaning it had inscriptions on it. The students of my class are actually commenting it. It's very encouraging that way. You have inscriptions on it, and these inscriptions basically were to disseminate administrative order and dhamma. Therefore, they had a purpose also. And the most important, Mauryan pillars were stand-alone pillars, meaning they were not part of a larger temple complex. In this, what used to happen was that in a large field or in an area which is quite strategically important, he used to construct the pillar as a way of sending a message to the person who is traveling that sector. So it is quite different from an Achaemenian pillar because it is monolithic, has purpose, standalone, strategic places, and has inscriptions. Thereafter, if we understand this point, I hope all of you do, that how an Achaemenian pillar is different from Ashokan. Do we do that? Standalone means standing as a single structure. Are we clear about this? Because then I go into the structure of the Mauryan pillar. Are we clear about this? Come on. Okay. Now let's talk about then what are the features. A Mauryan pillar just give me 1 second. The Mauryan pillar, once it was constructed, had the following features or following components. This is called a shaft, and this whole thing is called capital. This is 1, this is 2. But capital was further divided. This is called lower abacus, which is 2A. This is called upper abacus. Upper abacus. One sec. Abacus. 2B. Together called the abacus or platform. And then you have the capital figure, which is 2C, and this was mostly a lion, an elephant, or a bull. And basically together this makes a Mauryan pillar. So shaft, lower, upper, and this is lower abacus, is also sometimes called as the bell because it had a certain design. It is also called sometimes the inverted lotus. It's also sometimes also called the inverted lotus. It looks like a lotus has been inverted. This is a zoomed picture of this. This is called inverted lotus or bell motif. So basically I've taught you the basic components of the Mauryan pillars itself. Further, capital figure, lion represented royalty, elephant represented grandeur, bull represented fertility. This inverted nature is must or normal. It is standard. This you will find in most Mauryan pillars. Do understand, Rishi, yes, once the 80 hall pillar, it will become a point of Buddhist, what we call as pilgrimage. This is a standalone pillar. What we found are other types of pillars which were used in structures. So don't confuse the 80 pillars which have been found and a standalone Mauryan pillar. So I hope that now you are more or less clear with regards to the Mauryan concept of pillars and the Mauryan concept of what we call as palaces and assembly hall. Sorted, everyone? If I get a chance, maybe in the next session, elephant represents grandeur, bigness. I will also sometime represent and show you the representation of stupas if and when we get a chance. Royalty for lion, elephant for grandeur, bigness, and bull for fertility. Are we clear? If we are clear, let's take the question. Okay, the only elephant oldest. Yes, we discussed it today only. Okay. Consider the following statements. Mauryan pillars were monolithic structures devoid of inscription and images. The lower abacus of the Mauryan pillars were usually in the form of bell shape or lotus motif. Which of these statements are correct? Please tell me. Come on, I've just taught this concept to you, so I want everybody to answer it correctly. Come on. Okay. Quite encouraging that ways. Pay attention to the small details of the statements and you will be able to identify these type of questions. Everybody has to answer. I'm seeing a higher vote rate. I want everybody to answer who are here in this session so that you can also test your knowledge. This session is not about just learning. It is about evaluation. That is why it is important that we learn and revise in the same session. These are very simple, straightforward topics. I want you to just use this opportunity to cover everything. Okay, everybody is extremely excited. I think the image was not there on pillar. There are multiple things, Mumtaz, which are wrong with that statement. I'll give it 1 more minute. I've more or less given you the answer also in this conversation. So, okay, we'll end it. Kanishk, very interesting point. 60% of you are here. Now, let's try to also take in Kanishk's point. See, Mauryan pillar were monolithic structures devoid of inscriptions and images. Images were not there, but inscriptions were there. That is what was the whole purpose of the concept of what we call as inscriptions, which used to be what we call as decrees, or the concept of dhamma. Dhamma matras, being asked to spread dhamma. So this is an incorrect statement. That is totally there. The lower abacus of the Mauryan pillars were usually in the form of bell motif or lotus motif. Now Kanishk, what you've done is, this statement is actually correct. I'll tell you why. Because when it says bell motif, lotus is implied. Lotus motif is written. It does not say inverted lotus design. It says motif. Motif means design. So what you've done is you overthought the statement. A good, keen observation, but because it is something related to a lotus, it is called lotus motif. So the answer here is B. Now, I'll tell you one more interesting thing. In these type of questions, the subjectivity of the examiner matters. Meaning, in one universe, Kanishk is also right, because it should be lotus, inverted lotus. But because I have used a generic word, motif, therefore, it will be lotus. Lower abacus means this part. This is lower abacus. Lower abacus is this. This will most probably be bell motif, or what we call as lotus motif, which is inverted lotus in that sense. So very simply, because Kanishk, good observation, but one small point, which is it's a generic word, motif. If it said bell shape or lotus, then it would be an incorrect statement. If it's saying motif, it means design. But good observation. Okay, so only 2. But these type of questions, you have to always choose the best option available. Because if this was given the examination, it may be that the examiner thinks it's an incorrect statement. So have to sometimes keep it simple, face value. I wanted only you were the one who actually got into that much detail, but most of you did not overthink. It's a good thing. Okay, can I move to the next question? Rather, next topic. We have done 3 topics. As I said, I will give you the first summary, which is we've discussed the concept of UNESCO Asia Pacific Award for Cultural Heritage Conservation. And therein we have a temple which had got it. We have discussed the concept of parakrams, which are nothing but the hallways or the corridors. And we've also discussed the concept of what we call as Dravida style temple architecture, and how this UNESCO award is given to private and public-private partnership, not to public. Then we discussed West Bengal. We discussed how Dakshineshwar temple, Kalighat temple, Ganga Sagar Mela, and the importance of these 3, what are the peculiarities to it, and the UNESCO tangible heritage sites of West Bengal. The third topic, we were able to identify how a pillared hall has been excavated, is now been again excavated, but because there's a lot of static involved into it, it is important that we were able to identify the Buddhist councils, Mauryan pillars, and over and above that, everything else. So I hope these 3 topics are totally etched in your mind. With this, let's talk about the 4th topic, which is Paryatan Mitra, Paryatan Didi. Now, Paryatan means tourism. Now, in face value, what I want from you is, tell me what this would have been related to. Meaning, it could be that this is a topic which you would not remember in the examination. Looking at this, tell me first the ministry out of which it would come through. First, tell me the ministry, which is the most obvious one. We have Tourism Mitra, Tourism Didi. So, Paryatan Mitra, Paryatan Didi. Which ministry would this be? Pranjal, Dhanya, let's crack UPSC, Chavi, Azhar, very good. It is Ministry of Tourism. Very good. There is no catch here. It is a Ministry of Tourism based concept. Very good point. So what did we use here? We used logic. Kanishk, again a good guess, but because it is related to Paryatan, culture would remain out and tourism will come through. Very good. Now tell me what this would be about. Is it about helping the tourists? Is it about creating new men and women who help them? What is it about? Guides. Kanishk says guides. Pranjal says guide. Promoting heritage by guiding. Again, you have not learned anything. We are just using the word to basically dissect this concept. Disseminating information, guides, local guides. Now there is one word which may be make or break for you for this topic. Meaning, does it? Now again, I'm asking you this question. I want you to understand. Does it help the existing guides or it creates new guides? Important question. Creates or new or existing it is supporting. Creates. Pranjal says existing. Creates new one. Khurshid. Okay, all of you are after class are here. Okay, will creates new guides existing. Rishi, very good. Okay, this is where there can be a little bit of a confusion in the examination. And I'll be very clear in saying this is training. Training of youth and women as stakeholders, so new basically, stakeholders for enhancing the experience of tourism in the different sectors and basically gives them employment, but also creates an army of guides which basically protect and conserve the narrative also. So, the Ministry of Tourism has created the Paryatan Mitra and Didi. Mitra means friend, Didi means sister. And the idea is to enhance the tourist experience by taking local stakeholders, making them ambassadors and storytellers. So the idea is give them the narrative so that they can do heritage walks. Give them the narrative so that they can actually guide the people who are going there. So heritage walks, food tours, nature treks. The idea is 3,000 individuals have been trained in digital literacy and have been given the understanding of this sector. Yes, it's about reclaiming also. It is about employment also. This is where culture becomes a means of employment. And in a way, this relationship creates a cycle of conservation. People tend to discount history as or culture as a redundant or obsolete thing. This is where they are trying to help people learn their culture and then support themselves by actually using this culture to disseminate and preserve our culture itself. This is a very interesting model that way. As of right now, this initiative is only in 6 tourist destinations. One in MP, which is Orcha. The other one in Andhra Pradesh, which is the Gangaikota. Then in Bodh Gaya, Bihar, obviously. Aizwal, Mizoram. Jodhpur, Rajasthan. And Sri Vijayapuram in Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Now, you should be able to remember these 6 destinations for sure. Because that is the type of question which can be asked in the examination. It will be expanded to 50 tourist destinations by World Tourism Day 2025. But as of right now, it is only running in 6 states and 6 spaces. This is not important to you specifically, but the state may be important. Now, what did I do here? I did only 2 very simple things for you. Very simple things. I used logic. Sometimes in the examination, if you actually get caught up in these type of questions, first use your logic by dissecting the word. Paryatan, Didi. Don't be an overthinker so that you actually think that the most obvious thing cannot be there. So it was Paryatan, tourism, easy. Then second thing which we did was we tried to dissect. What would this scheme try to do? Would it support the people who are already there, or would it train the people to create a new army of guides? That is where the second aspect comes in. You have to look for the word training. Look for the word training. And therefore, very interesting in the larger context of how you are making the youth in a way a part of, other we had discussed this previously in UCAN also, made it a part of our culture, but also give employment in that regard. Get employment in that regard. Prince, you'll find the PDF in the Telegram group. Now, please look at this slide for 1 minute because I'm giving you an opportunity. Learn this because I'm going to ask a question on this. In the exam situation, it will become very confusing. Right now, I'm giving you an opportunity to learn this here itself. As I do in class, learn it. Say, yes, sir, I'm sorted. Then I'm going to push you a question to check if you learned it here only. I'm giving you a minute. These 6 tourist destinations which are under pilot program here should be in your understanding. When the list will become 50, it will, as it is, become very difficult to learn that. As of right now, it is a limited list. So please, once you're done, say yes in the chat section. Everybody. For a lot of students, Pranjal and all, this would be something which we do in class also. We learn and revise in the same session. We have to keep it simple. Art and culture can be managed by just discipline. Don't need anything else. Bhanu is here also. Very good. Done? Okay. So, with regards to this, Andhra Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, Mizoram, Rajasthan, Andaman and Nicobar Islands. You should be able, I want above 80% answers correct, if that is the case. I've given you the opportunity to look at it. Most of you said, we are done, sir. Okay, let's look at the question. Consider the following. MP, Andhra Pradesh, Bihar, Mizoram, Rajasthan. Which of the above states are associated with the Paryatan Didi program? The options will be in front of you in just 1 second. Please answer it there. Okay. I want a good number here because you have seen the answer already. I've made you learn it here itself. We started with a good number. Okay. MP, AP, Bihar, Mizoram and Rajasthan. Azhar, it is going down. Okay. Raima, check this list. Palak, I showed you the list. Again, I'm giving you 1 more minute. Okay, so we end the poll because I've already showed you the answer. All 69% of you are totally correct. MP, Andhra Pradesh, Bihar, Mizoram, Rajasthan. Basically given the same order. So imagine if I've showed you the answer and then you're doing it, you're finding it difficult, 23%, 3% and 3%. In the examination, these things are free giveaway questions. Free giveaway questions. Sometimes these simple questions based on basic ideas can be make or break in prelims. So 6 is okay. The 6th one would be Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Then I would have said states, UTs. But the idea was very simple. Please learn this here only. M-A-B M-R-A. So BAM and RAM. Simple, straightforward. Right? Fine arts is good, Bhanu, but needs a little bit of understanding also because it's written for fine arts student, that is why. So BAM, RAM, RAM, BAM, whatever you want to use it as. So I've given you an acronym also for this. Can I move to the next topic? Yes? Great. Now, a very interesting topic, which is Mahakumbh Mela. Now, we already know that the Kumbh Mela is part of the intangible heritage list. It's a UNESCO intangible heritage. If I really want to check your understanding, I'll give you a question here itself. I'm giving you 3 options. And the option is 1 pair, or rather only 1, B only 2, C only 3, and add the 4th one, D all. You are going to tell me which of the above are intangible heritages, which is Kudiyattam, Mudiyattu, Raman and Ram Leela. Tell me what is the answer to this. I want to check if you remember your intangible heritages. Very small list of 15 and very unique that ways. Come on. We have A also trending, we have D also trending. This is called the static of this topic. Kumbh Mela is an intangible heritage, sure. But is Mudiyattu, Kudiyattam, Raman and Ram Leela a intangible heritage or not? Come on, everybody. This is a list which UPSC would expect you to remember. Okay. 68% on D. I'll give you 1 more minute. Come on, come on. Okay. We'll end the poll here. 67% of you. All of these are intangible heritages. Right? Just to complete the list for you, I'll make the whole list itself. You can also contribute in that if you can remember. We have Kudiyattam, Mudiyattu, Raman, Ram Leela, Kalbelia, then we have our Kalbeli, then we have Chao, then we have 7th Kumbh Mela, 8th Thatheras of Jandela Guru. Thereafter we have, yes, Buddhist chanting. Thereafter Vedic chanting. Then 11 we have the concept of Durga Puja. 12, very good, Garba. 13, what is left in this? Very good, Sankirtana. 2 more. We have Kudiyattam, Mudiyattu, Raman, Ram Leela, Kalbeli, Chao. We have Navroz and Kumbh Mela is already counted. What is the last one? Navroz is also added. Buddhist chanting is also added. Vedic chanting is also added. Very good. Who is this? Mumtaz. Very good. Yoga. Very good. So, we have 15 total and the latest addition is Garba. So, I hope that this discussion itself refreshes your memory in that regard. 15, not a very extensive list, but a very interesting list. I hope this is sorted. If you don't know it, please learn these. This would be the minimum which UPSC would expect from you. Now, the Kumbh Mela has a very interesting mythology behind it. And the idea is that there's something called mythologically the Samudra Manthan, or the churning of the Sankirtan, the churning of the ocean, which in turn produced nectar, which is Amrit, and produced the concept of vish, which is poison. Poison is what Lord Shiva keeps in his, what we call as throat. That is why it's called Neelkant, because he holds the poison here. And the other is that when Amrit was in a way taken out from the Samudra Manthan, when this Amrit was being carried by the Devas, in 4 rivers, this Amrit drops went in. One is Shipra, the other one is Godavari at Nasik, Shipra Ujjain, thereafter Haridwar Ganga, and the confluence of Ganga and Yamuna at Sangam Prayagraj. So it was believed that in these 4 rivers, the Samudra Manthan Amrit went through. So therefore, if you take a bath in these rivers at a given nakshatra, you basically get those same, you can say, benefaction as the concept of that Amrit in that regard. This is the basic mythology behind it. Mahakumbh Mela happens every 12 years. And therefore, yes, very good point. Out of this Samudra Manthan story, I will give you the list of the rivers: Shipra, Godavari, Ganga and Yamuna. The story is also that the Mohiniyattam dance comes out of the dance of Lord Vishnu as Mohini when he was giving nectar to the Devas and not to the Asuras. This is the basic story behind the Kumbh Mela concept and the Mahakumbh Mela concept. Kumbh Mela, as it is a very, very big event which happens in Prayagraj or in Ujjain or Nasik or Haridwar. But this time, it is the year of the Mahakumbh Mela. And Mahakumbh Mela is happening in Prayagraj. Now, I hope the static portion is sorted. Ahead of this Kumbh Mela, the Uttar Pradesh government has actually designated the area of the Mahakumbh as a district itself. Very interesting concept. Using its power from the revenue code and the civil code, the government of UP, Uttar Pradesh, has designated the area in and around the Kumbh Mela as a district itself. It is the 76th district. 75 districts are already there. It is the 76th district in which the Uttar Pradesh Revenue Code, Section 12, and Section 14(1) of the Indian Civil Defence Code or 2023, both have been used. Now basically the Kumbh Mela sector can have a district magistrate, a district collector, can have an ADM, which is additional district magistrate, and he will have all the powers as an executive magistrate in that regard. Now this is a very interesting concept. Just to show you the scale of something like this, this is an aerial shot of the Mahakumbh Mela last time when it happened. Imagine the administrative challenges which appears with yogis, with Naga Babas, with a lot of tourists coming from across the world. And this in turn led to the decision that maybe we need to create a separate administrative unit. Now this has 2 major importance in your understanding. First is that this shows you how culture can create administrative challenges, but this is good for a case study. Meaning, next time in ethics, when you get a case study, you can quote these sections. You can quote these sections of the Uttar Pradesh Revenue Code. You can change for example, you can give the example of this, and you can use the 14(1) of Indian Civil Defence Code 2023. And you can say that if there are administrative challenges which something produces, this in turn, this is only for 4 months. Starting from December, only for 4 months it is going to be a district. It will not be a new constituency. It is only for 4 months. It's an interim arrangement. But the idea is, it tells you how administration adapts to these forms of intangible heritages, and an interesting concept itself. So we had never seen something like this happen previously. It was the Prayagraj DM and DC which used to manage it. But the idea was that the Prayagraj DC, the district collector and DM already have a lot of pressure, and therefore creating a whole district itself means that it allows for better governance. A very interesting model how to manage these type of crises. Now, or crisis you want to call administrative nightmare, because administratively managing something like this is very difficult. For close to 2.5, 3 months to manage something like this at the scale it is happening, with certain component of drowning and what we call as bridges which are made, temporary bridges which are made, there has to be certain crowd management. It is one of the biggest, you can say, challenges which the Prayagraj district is actually exposed to every 12 years and every 4 years. That way, it is quite interesting. So, Kumbh Mela, I'm coming to why it is in this Prayagraj sector. The story behind that is that once the Samudra Manthan happened in 4 places, Godavari River in Nasik, Shipra River in Ujjain, Ganga River in Haridwar, and Ganga Yamuna Sangam in Prayagraj. The idea is that the mythological Amrit went into these 4 points and therefore gives you ritualistic merit to take bath. It is considered to be one of the largest peaceful congregation of pilgrimages taking dip in a sacred river. That was an interesting concept. So, just to refresh your memory with regards to intangible heritages and with regards to how it creates a certain crisis and a challenge which somehow the UP government has now very uniquely managed. So, are we clear about the importance of Kumbh Mela? Why is it UNESCO Intangible Heritage? The 15 intangible heritages itself, and the unique solution which the government of Uttar Pradesh has found. Are we sorted about this? Then I'll give you a question on the rivers itself, because a lot of you are still not able to understand the rivers. Rivers, Godavari, Shipra, Ganga, Yamuna. Basically, Yamuna, Ganga, Godavari, Shipra. Places, Nasik, Ujjain, Haridwar, Prayagraj. Right? Okay. Let's take this question. Consider the following. Godavari, Narmada, Ganga, Yamuna. Which of the above rivers are linked to the sacred Kumbh Mela? Only one, only two, only three, or all? This poll should be in front of you now. Okay, come on. Again, a very representative question for the examination based on historical geography. This is called when geography and history meet together, they create historical geography. That is the idea here. So, this type of question needs an understanding of the rivers also, and also needs an understanding of history also. Come on, come on. Still, I'm giving you a minute. Everybody has to answer. Yes, Azhar, they can create a question in mains also. Still, everybody is not engaging. I can see less number of votes vis-a-vis the students who are live with me. Come on, everybody has to take part. Don't know the answer, no issues. Just try your luck. I want to see how good your instinct is. Okay. Now let's, again, students are answering. Ajanta caves don't have bordering, right? Ajanta initial caves don't have bordering. Basu, the question would have been, you have to be specific to the period it is asking. I know the question is asking about the late period. Okay, let's end the poll. If this comes like where Kumbh Mela is organized, So we choose 3 confluence of river, Yamuna alone to be correct. Kanishk, if they ask you location, 65% if you are totally correct, they will not ask you the rivers. They will then ask you the locations, which is Nasik. Narmada is not related to this whole concept. Ganga, Yamuna, and the third, which is Shipra. Shipra is Ujjain. So you have to take care of 2 things. See, because Yamuna and Ganga both are involved with regards to Sangam, you cannot reject Yamuna. So this was a point which I wanted to point out here. Do not reject Yamuna because it is Sangam. Yamuna and Ganga both are in a way meeting at that point. That is why it has a certain holiness to it. So therefore, it is only 3. Narmada has nothing to do with it. The acronym is what? GSYG. So YG, GS. So we have 2 G's, Ganga and Godavari. One is Yamuna and the other one is Shipra. So Nasik in Haridwar and together at Prayagraj and Desert Ujjain. I hope that you're liking these questions because they are trying to use your basic static knowledge to, in a way, that this is called the legendary Saraswati River Kanishk. Saraswati River is considered to be the mythical river which is created after the confluence of the Ganga and Yamuna, which is at Sangam. There is a different Saraswati River which is in the Indus Saraswati complex itself. This is a mythical river. Does not exist as that's a totally different Indus Saraswati zone, different concept altogether. Are we sorted with regards to this? Can we move on to the next topic? If everybody is on board. Yes, come on. Yes, the Ghagra Hakkar. Very good, Pranjal. Very good. Okay. Azhar, most probably yes. Okay. Now we go to GI tags. GI tags, I have previously, through the UCAN sessions, always tried to update you with regards to GI. Now there are 2 things I want to ask you, according to which I will teach you this topic. I know the answer, but I'm still going to ask you. Do you understand what is GI? If everybody says yes, then I don't talk about GI, I just talk about the sari. If you understand GI and you don't understand GI, then I have to explain to you GI also. Everybody understands? Okay. Basu is saying, what is GI? And Sangeeta is saying, no sir, I don't understand GI. So for the students who are saying yes, Khurshid, you are in class itself. Let this be a little bit of a revision, but I will just repeat what is GI. Now, there's something called TRIPS, Trade Related Intellectual Property Rights. TRIPS. It comes under the concept of WTO. And under it, there are multiple forms of intellectual properties which are actually identified and protected. Under this, you have patent, you have copyright, then you have something called trademark, and then you have something called registered. Now, patents are for industrial design, new technology, the concept of pharmaceutical, chemical formations, and patent is very well protected. For 20 years, you can't use the patent, some cases 10 years, and you have to reapply every 20 to 10 years to basically, in a way, show that you are innovating in that sector. Patents, for example, there was a major patent war over vaccines of COVID-19, and therefore, patents are very well protected. You can be taken to court if you basically are going to breach patents. Then comes copyright. Small c you would have seen. Copyright is for songs, it is for music, it is for books, it is for any form of literature. Wherever there are words involved, it will be copyrighted material. Thereafter, you have something called trademark and registered. The best example of this is here. This is a trademark, TM. This is the Unacademy trademark, meaning this symbol can only be used by Unacademy. It's a trademark of the Unacademy company. Now, this is an example of registered. The name Unacademy is registered and nobody can use this name other than Unacademy itself. So the logo, for example, the logo is the trademark and the name is the registered. So this is a standard thing. Trademark and registered and copyright and patent all are very, very well protected concepts. All are very, very well protected concepts wherein we have the concept of some form of legal redressal which is there for trademark and registered. Though we are also the nation of Adibas and Pumba, so therefore we really don't care about these things. You will find everything's copy everywhere. So we are innovative that way. We play with these copyrights also, but where there's a will, there's a way. One of the, you can say, components which is protected under TRIPS, which is very closely associated with trademark, is called GI, which is called geographical indications or indicator. So geographical indication tag. Now what is GI? Now see, GI is not given to a person, it is not given to a company, it is given to a region. And the concept is that a specific product which comes from a specific geography, for example, tea which comes out of Darjeeling has a specific characteristic. The reason why it has that specific characteristic is because it comes out of Darjeeling. And therefore, Darjeeling tea has a specific quality which makes it distinct to any other form of tea which comes out of any part of India. Therefore, Darjeeling tea is given a GI tag. Tirupati Laddu in controversy, also a GI tagged concept wherein that specific product can only come out of a specific geography which gives it a specific characteristic. Now, the reason why GI tag is not given to an individual is because anybody who produces in Darjeeling is therefore allowed to use the name Darjeeling tea and also get GI name, GI recognition. Now, GI is very diluted form of trademark because there's no legal redressal if you breach it. Meaning, if you breach GI tag, meaning someone from Karnataka or Kerala is using Darjeeling tea tag, it will go to the registrars of GI, the state can move to that, and thereafter they can seek redressal that this tag should be removed. The concept of GI is to do two things: give recognition to the producer and give authenticity or originality to the consumer, meaning the consumer knows that GI tagged product I am eating, I am giving a premium for that GI tag, and therefore I am getting the authentic, credible product. On the other hand, the producer can put his product on the shelf saying that I am the GI tag Darjeeling tea. Now, never try to learn all GIs because the GI list is over now, close to 450 now. So the idea is very simple. You have to just learn the ones which are in the news. So I hope GI you now understand. GI is not specific to a player or a person or a company. It is specific to a region, and more than that, it is registered under, or it is recognized under the GI Act of 1999, and the Registrar General of the GIs is the one who gives you recognition. We can seek GI in other countries can seek GI in India also. It is not specific to country, it is recognized by any WTO member. Do we understand this concept? Who said no, that we don't understand GI? For anybody who knew GI, is it refreshed? Are you sorted? That is the ministry you are talking about, Bhanu. I am talking about the specific agency which gives it. Okay, understood. Very good. Now we have a new addition. No, that is not, Kalyan, that is not a given, but you may be asked to do that. Now, recently, the Gharchola sarees from Gujarat have received the GI tag and became the 27th item or product which has got Gujarat-based GI. GI time period is 10, sometimes 20. It is specific, so Sunny and Gurendra Kumar, that it is specific to the product. How long does the registrar want to, it will most probably be 10 years, but it can be 20 years also if the registrar is giving it. Mostly 10 years, then have to renew. Okay. Now, Ghar Chola saris have a very interesting history. Hindu and Jain communities of the Gujarat sector, when a woman marries, she will wear the Ghar Chola sari and enter the house for the first time. And it was mostly done on cotton, now on silk also. Ghar means house, chola means outfit, Ghar Chola sari in that regard. And it is a variation of what is called as tie and dye technique, meaning there's something where you tie the cloth and thereafter you dye it. And tie and dye is a very beautiful form of handicraft tradition out of India. And Ghar Chola is actually a specific type of it. I'll show it to you so that there's certain understanding. This is called a Ghar Chola sari. What happens is that these are the squares which actually represent Ghar Chola. There can be 12 or 52. Bright colors are related, for example, green, yellow, red. And this, what you see here, is basically tie and dye, meaning parts of the silk is tied or cotton is tied and then white dye it is pushed through. So therefore, you will see that there will be certain scenes of god and goddesses plus the concept of tie and dye together. That way, it can have 12 squares, which is called bar bag, or 52 squares, which is called bavan bag. And it has, what is the concept is, zari is basically done in a square fashion and the cloth in the middle is then tied and dyed. So it is basically a confluence of two concepts, which is the zari work which happens, which you can see here. This is the zari work. It creates the border, and in the box itself, you will see dots, elephants, parrots shown in the tie and dye concept in that regard. So very simply, it is bandhani, tie dye, zari coming together in silk and cotton to produce Ghar Chola. So please remember, this is the latest edition from Gujarat. Now, a very standard question which can come in the examination. I'm going to show it to you. Everybody should get it correct. In the examination context, it will become difficult with a lot of different concepts in front of you. But I hope everybody gets this correct. The poll is coming to you. Give it 1 second. The Ghar Chola sari, which recently received the GI tag, belongs to which state? The poll is coming to you. Just 1 second. Yes, it should be in front of you. Come on, everybody should get this answer correct. There should be nobody who gets this incorrect. Right now, it should not be incorrect. Okay. Somebody has clicked one more option to make sure that we don't touch 100%. So, good, nice. If you're not getting it right now, how will you get it after 5 months in the examination? Okay, come on, everybody engages with this question. I want everybody's engagement. Well, Raima, you have even given a certain trick to all of you. Come on. Who is D? 2%. Okay, let's cut the poll here. So we have 92, 5%, 1%. Gujarat is the answer. Very good, interesting concept. G for Ghar Chola, G for Gujarat. Beautiful, very good. So, don't need to worry about anything else other than that. So, very simple, straightforward concept. I hope that in the examination, you will not lose those 2 marks. Right? If this is sorted, we move to the last topic. Last topic for today. Come on. Yes? We've discussed 6 topics. Gharchola sarees, GI from Gujarat, the concept of Mauryan pillars. We discussed the concept of UNESCO heritage tourism, discussed the concept of heritage awards, and we've also discussed the concept of how the what we call as Paryatan Didi or Paryatan Mitra is going to help you. 27th GI tag from the state of Gujarat. Not that important, but state is important that way. Okay. This topic originally was not there when I was contemplating on taking UCAN. Till yesterday it wasn't there. It gives me a lot of pain because we are from the generation of Zakir Hussain, from his very iconic ad of Vataj. If you wanted to play tabla, you wanted to play it because Zakir Hussain was your inspiration. This was an era where thousands of individuals went into tabla because of the inspiration which he provided. Zakir Hussain unfortunately left us yesterday night in San Francisco because of a pulmonary disease related to his lungs. Vulnerability was already there. He was too young to go. He was only in his 60s. And if you don't know who 73 years, yes, 73 or 63, 73, yes, 73. The question is not that. If you don't know who Zakir Hussain is, then you basically have, in a way, left a major part of our culture, and he is a Padma Award winner, all 3. Grammy Award winner, made jazz what it is today and very standard in India, has received the Sangeet Natak Academy Awards also. He is the son of a legendary player of tabla himself, Allah Rakha Khan, Ustad Allah Rakha Khan. And he was the one who was since the childhood itself considered a prodigy, the one who was made to in a way represent tabla. He is known for the horse sound he makes out of tabla itself. Very big, you can say, loss to India and its intangible heritage. This is his father playing with him at a very young age. I was able to find certain gifts so that you understand how important and how good he was. But now things related to him become important, which is first, Padma Shri in 1988, Padma Bhushan in 2002, and just last year, Padma Vibhushan. So all 3 Padma Awards. The Sangeet Natak Academy in 1990s gave him the highest recognition in Indian performative arts. He has received 4 Grammy Awards in his career, 3 last year itself. And over 6 decades, he has worked with thousands of personalities. But in 1973, he made classical Indian music a part of the jazz culture, a fusion of Indian and the, you can say, European or American form of jazz, which in turn was done by him. He pioneered this form of Indo-fusion, which today we listen to. And that was Zakir Hussain, a very towering personality for the examination, should be remembered and deserves a question in the UPSC, because he was and will remain one of, like Birju Maharaj, one of the best known personalities of this form. So again, if you did not have any idea about him, you should now please pay attention to the news related to him. As we speak, the Prime Minister and multiple important dignitaries have talked about his legacy. But for you, these things will become important. If you can remember him and we can pay homage to him in this moment, I would like to also give you a question on this concept. Can we do that? Can we take a question? Yes, sir. Okay. This is the last question for today. Ustad Zakir Hussain was the recipient of all 3 Padma Awards and received the Bharat Ratna in 2023. He is the only Indian artist to receive the Grammy Award. Which of the above are correct? Pay attention. There are certain catches in this question. Okay. Poll should be in front of you now. Come on, everybody. I want everyone in this session to take this question, one of the easiest I have asked all throughout the night. Okay, D, B, D, A also has a certain percentage. Still only half of you have engaged with the poll. Come on, everybody, chat section. D. Okay, let's end the poll here. 75% of you are, I think 75% to 74% of you totally correct. Zakir Hussain deserves a Bharat Ratna, but he does not have it right now. Yes, all 3 Padma Awards is correct, but the statement becomes incorrect. Second is, he is not the only Indian artist. There are 15 Indians, don't have to learn the list, 15 Indians who have received the Grammy Awards. As it is, it's an extreme statement. So therefore, it becomes a question which you should be always very, very wary of what is happening. So here, neither of these statements are correct. So with this session, we have basically covered all the 7 topics we had endeavored in the beginning itself. Now, in the first topic, 5 to 6 things, I'm giving you the master summary. Please do understand this. A UNESCO Asia Pacific World Heritage Conservation Award given to a temple in Tamil Nadu. Why Parakrams were restored. Parakrams are the hallways. You should know what is a Parakram itself. Further, you should also have an understanding. That Parakrams are something which evolved over a period of time from the Chola to the Nayak to the Vijayanagara period. Second, we discussed UNESCO's acknowledgement of West Bengal's tourism and its culture, and Dakshineshwar temple, the concept of the Kalighat temple, and last but not the least, the Ganga Sagar Mela. Because Kumbh Mela is in the news, it becomes important. Third, we discussed the concept of Mauryan pillars, the Third Buddhist Council, and the excavations which are happening in Patna. Thereafter, we went into Paryatan Didi and Paryatan Mitra, Ministry of Tourism, creating a certain, what we call a scheme in 6 states to train people to become part of our culture. Fifth, the Gharchola saris from Gujarat got the GI tag. Sixth, late Shri Ustad Zakir Hussain is now no more with us. 3 all Padma Awards, no Bharat Ratna, Grammy Award winner, but not the only Grammy Award winner. And we also discussed the Mahakumbh Mela. Where does it happen? Godavari, Shipra, Yamuna and Ganga. And why is it so important? Because it has been now, the whole sector has been declared as a district. With this, I would like to end the session. Thank you so much for being here. And I will see you next month with another set of issues. I hope for the past 1 month, your art and culture current affairs is sorted. Please, if you have found this useful, do use the IAS English code, and the 9+9 offer is still live. It will be there till tomorrow. You can use the code which is given in the description box and the link in the description box. Use IAS English code so as to get the 50% discount, but also get attributed to the mentorship program from our team. And also remember that the PPT for this session will be in my Telegram channel. The GI, I'll rather show you the QR code for that is this. If you want, you can join this Telegram group and you will find everything there. Thank you. Take care. Good night. See you next month. Bye-bye.